I was a film critic, and that gave me an excuse to go down to 901. I fell in love with the whole concept of 901, which is a kind of Renaissance art workshop, where they did everything. At the time, he was considered a kind of cutesy, passe little filmmaker, but no one had ever written about the films.
Eames films are their own genre. The product not of a film studio concerned with profits, but of a curious mind yearning to communicate the complex beauty of everyday objects.
We've never used film as an art form. We just use film as a tool.
They were, at heart, a kind of mixture of vanity and self-expression. They only had one obligation, and that was to satisfy Charles.
Much of our energy is like the guy in vaudeville that has the plates going, and he's intent on getting 30 plates spinning at one time, but part of the process is quickly being aware of the ones that are winding down and keeping them spinning.
One of the titles that began to circulate with all the employees was the Eamery, because it was like this place where everyone was driven to work all the time.
It was 24/7, 365.
Going to the Eames office and watching people at their desk was like watching people take their brains out and knead them like dough. People that came from the outside couldn't believe that this is the way things were done. But it was a delicious agony. It was like a temple for me.
Many of us understood very well that we were very poorly suited for employment in certain kinds of jobs. We were very well suited to be there.
Charles had a terrible time interacting with people. Several times I hired people and they would be there like 3 days and he'd come to me and say, I just can't stand that guy. Get him out of here. And I never did know what it was that he saw in that person that he just could not work with them.
I happen to have a sort of an interest in language as a means of communication, which I like to believe can be simple and direct. Charles, I would say, didn't subscribe to that.
Now we have to, the only thing is that we have to have some sort of a background before we do this, because one sort of begins to
His speech wasn't yada, 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 yada. It was stop and go and stop and go.
Oh, you let me cut this, let me.
He had this incredible ability to surround every subject with a little cloud of words.
We were both into, there were several things. There was
You finally got the message at the end of about 15 or 20 minutes of wondering what the hell is he talking about. It finally dawned on you that he was telling you you were an absolute clown because there's something wrong.
This one is going to have something to do with what I think of as a new covetable.
He appeared one day at a conference at UCLA, and he started to speak, and it just ran right off the track. Looked up and he said, I'm sorry, I just isn't going to work today. And somebody said, no. So he said, well, give me a minute. He put his head down, and everybody waited, and it took about 2 minutes, and he raised up, and he just took off. Boom!
Reams of paper. What you do with a ream of paper can never quite come up to what the paper offers.
He knew where his center was. And there are not a lot of people that can do that. I have buttons that get pushed, but I don't know where my center is.
Charles, knowing where his center was meant working for powerful clients without compromising his ideals. And making a film to represent the United States in communist Russia in 1959 would put that philosophy to the test.
At the height of the Cold War, the American government and the government of the Soviet Union decided to hold joint expositions. And the United States would show what America was about to the Soviet public, and the Soviet Union would show what they were about to America. And one of the centerpieces were a series of American kitchens, and it was there that Khrushchev and Nixon had their so-called kitchen debate.
There are some instances where you may be ahead of us. There may be some instances, for example, color television, where we're ahead of you. But in order for both of us to benefit,
But the U.S. Information Agency decided that they had to show Russians more about America than just cars and household appliances.
The idea is that Charles and Ray will make a film about life in the USA, glimpses of the USA.
How could you make the world, as we see it in the United States, how could you make it really credible to an audience like that? We could have shown the greatest freeway in the United States. If we'd shown one picture that had gone, they would say, you know, it's a great freeway interchange, but we've got one at Minsk, and we're going to build one at Smolensk, and we'll have two, and they have one. But in the redundancy of the multi-image technique, in something like 12 seconds, I think we showed 120 freeway interchanges.
People were sent all over the country, friends were called to take images so that it looked nationalistic. It couldn't look specific and regional, it had to be national and egalitarian.
Charles wanted pictures of people setting off for work, children coming from school, coming up from the subway, and freeways. So I did my first, helicopter flights, sort of strapped in, leaning way out. I think the State Department had sort of envisioned having lots of troop marches, and Charles said he'd do the film, but he didn't want to have it reviewed before it was shown.
The government really didn't have any idea what was happening. We would have these showings for the guy who would represent the government coming out. It seemed like each time it would just get going and then go blank. And we'd say, that's as far as we are right now. And he said, well, I guess it looks okay, I don't know. And so he'd go away.
Well, as Charles said, sometimes if you don't ask for people's opinions, then they don't give them to you. They just got there the day before, and I think by that time, the USIA was just relieved that there'd be anything to show.
And here you have this giant effort that gone into building the building and putting the screens up and tickets being all of that happening, and he's waiting till the very last minute. It's just kind of his nature.
It was right at the end he would suddenly appear, and it would look like it was effortless. He'd say, this is just a little something we've been doing, and there'd be blood all over the floor from
When we look at the night sky, these are the stars we see, the same stars that shine down upon Russia each night. We see the same clusters, the same nebula, and from the sky it would be difficult to distinguish the Russian city from the American city.
If you're going to communicate with 3 million Soviet citizens, you need to say something true. You can't just show up, you got better weapons or this or that. You got to try to speak from the heart. And they did.
Was it propaganda? Goodness, yes. Have you seen it? Yes, it's selling the US, and it's selling, I think, a very sanitized USA.
course it was propaganda. They were cold warriors. The difference is I believe they genuinely believed it.
One of the interesting things was how to end this. Charles had this idea of a jet plane. Ray still felt this might be a bit hard-edged, could have military implications.
We never had an ending. And one day Ray walked in and said, "Forget-me-nots." Charles said, "Okay, forget-me-nots."
Forget-me-nots, the universal symbol of friendship, translates directly into Russian, "Nie zabudki," forget-me-not.
They describe Nikita Khrushchev with tears running down his cheeks. So you have this wonderful sort of double ending of the simplicity of the flower, but then this forget-me-not. And it worked like the best Hollywood movie.
The Moscow show made Charles and Ray newly famous, not as designers of furniture, but as communicators. Communicators who used images rather than words.
Charles was very wary of words. It's not about writing a script, it's about a sequence of images that can tell a story.
In the Eames film Tops, there are no words, just pictures.
In a way, the film is a kind of an essay about the nature and meaning of a top. In the beginning, it's all about winding up, getting started, putting it together, assembling the materials. And then it's about throwing them, seeing how they work, what they do, how they dance, how they spin, how they sing, whatever it is that their meaning is. But then you come to one moment where there's an architectural plan on the tabletop, a blueprint, and what spins is a thumbtack. And you realize you have suddenly gotten directly into the essence of what it means to be a top. Things have meaning, things have personality, things express ideas. Many designers were and still are happy with the manipulation of objects. He was only truly deeply happy manipulating an idea.
Beginning in the 1950s, the idea of the computer triggered fear in the minds of Americans.
People were seeing computers and there was a worry about them. And this notion of the electronic brain feeds into fears that we're going to be taken over by machines.
At the time, computers were synonymous with just one company, IBM.
What was IBM's product? Big vacuum tube machines, huge room-sized machines, building-sized machines, so that the average individual was feeling this is an alien science fiction type invasion of my privacy. How do you combat that?
IBM turned to the Eames office. To overcome the computer's PR problem, Charles and Ray set out to humanize it.
Properly related, it can maintain a balance between man's needs and his resources.
It's done in this, what to us today looks really corny. But at the time, this was thought to be radical to do a film for a science company like a cartoon.
Something has now emerged that might make even our most elegant theories workable.
And you go from the abacus, as human problems become more complex, people invent more complicated